Remember October 20th, 2025? For a few pretty terrifying hours, it really felt like the internet just broke. Your favorite apps, your bank, even government websites, poof, they just vanished. This wasn't some huge coordinated attack, though. It was something way smaller, and honestly, that makes it even more frightening. So let's dig in and unpack what really happened during the great AWS outage.
Okay, so picture this. It all kicks off in the early morning hours, around 7 a.m. Universal Time. All of a sudden, a wave of failures starts cascading across the entire globe. Digital services that millions, if not billions of us use every single day just stopped.
The immediate impact was just staggering. Down Detector was completely flooded with over 17 million user reports of outages. Now, to give you some perspective on that number, it was a 970% jump from a normal day. We're not talking about a minor hiccup here. This was a full-blown digital earthquake.
And this wasn't affecting some small, obscure services either. We're talking about the big players. Snapchat, Roblox, Reddit, all knocked offline. Heck, even Amazon's own massive retail site stumbled. Over in the UK, banks and government portals went dark. Crypto exchanges like Coinbase couldn't process a thing. It really just shows you how deeply interconnected everything is.
So this brings us to the million-dollar question, right? It's one thing for a single app to have a bad day, but how on earth does one tiny glitch cause a chain reaction that feels like it's taking down half of the internet? To answer that, we have to get into the nitty-gritty.
To really get to the why, we have to look deep inside the technical heart of Amazon's cloud. And as you'll see, the investigation leads us straight back to a piece of wisdom that's basically a running joke in the tech industry.
Anyone who has ever had to troubleshoot a network problem knows this phrase all too well. It's almost a mantra, and in this case, it was painfully, shockingly true. The culprit behind all this chaos was, you guessed it, DNS.
So, what the heck is DNS? Well, think of it like the internet's address book. When you type a website like Amazon.com into your browser, DNS is the system that looks up that name and translates it into a numerical IP address that computers can actually use to connect. If that address book has a typo, you're not finding anything.
But the DNS didn't just fail on its own. The real root cause was an incredibly specific and tiny software bug known as a race condition. Just imagine two automated programs trying to edit the exact same line in a file at the exact same microsecond. Well, they collided, and one accidentally overwrote the other, effectively erasing the correct address book entry for a supercritical service.
And where did this tiny bug decide to wreak all its havoc? The epicenter was a single database management system in a region called US-East-1, located in Northern Virginia. And you gotta understand, this isn't just any data center. This is AWS's oldest, biggest, and most critical region. It's like the Grand Central Station for the cloud that tons of global services rely on.
Okay, but wait. A single corrupted file in one data center? That shouldn't break the entire internet, right? Well, that tiny glitch didn't stay put. It set off a cascade of failures, like one domino tipping over a whole massive line of them.
You can see right here how the problem just spiraled. It started just before midnight Pacific time, with some errors in a core database service called DynamoDB. A couple hours later, EC2, the service that provides all the computing power, starts to fail. By 5:30 a.m., even the systems that distribute traffic are breaking down. It was a slow-motion collapse.
So, let's trace this chain reaction. First, that race condition messes up the DNS for the database. Then, other core services like EC2, which need that database to function, can't connect. And here's the real kicker. IAM, the service that handles logins and authentication, also failed. This meant some Amazon engineers were literally locked out of their own systems, which made fixing the problem incredibly slow. The final domino? Thousands of apps around the world went dark.
An outage of this scale isn't just a technical problem, It has massive, real-world consequences. So now, let's talk about the staggering financial price of all that digital silence.
From the very first failure to the moment all services were finally stable again, the whole mess and its aftershocks lasted for more than 15 hours. For any business that operates online, that is an absolute eternity.
This is what gets me, the speed of the financial damage. One analysis figured that just 8 of the major companies affected, think Snapchat and Roblox, were losing a combined $75 million per hour. Just let that sink in.
Oh, and the costs hit Amazon directly too.
See, because the outage broke their service level agreement, basically their uptime promise to customers, they were on the hook to give a 30% service credit. That might not sound like a lot, but when you're the world's biggest cloud provider, it adds up to a huge amount of money.
Trying to nail down the total damage is a bit tricky. The initial headlines, of course, were sensational, quoting these crazy figures in the hundreds of billions when you're factored in lost productivity. But the cyber insurance industry, the people who actually have to pay out claims, came back with a more grounded estimate, putting the total insured losses somewhere between $38 million and $581 million. The real number's probably in the middle, but either way, it's a massive financial blow.
You know, more than just the financial cost, this whole event was a massive wake-up call for the entire tech industry. It really forced everyone to fundamentally rethink what it means to be resilient when everything runs on the cloud.
I love this quote from A.J. Thompson because it just cuts right through the marketing hype. We think of the cloud as this magical, infallible thing, but at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of computers in someone else's building. And just like your laptop, that computer can and will eventually fail.
This outage really forced a huge strategic shift. The old way of thinking, what they call left of boom, was all about prevention, trying to build a fortress that could never be breached. The new reality, right of boom, is about acceptance. It assumes failure is inevitable and focuses all its energy on having a rock-solid plan to respond and recover as fast as humanly possible.
So this is basically the new playbook. For companies, it means not putting all your eggs in one basket, building systems across multiple geographic regions. It means running regular game day drills where you intentionally try to break things to test your response. It's about mapping every single dependency in your software and even looking to the future at decentralized ideas that don't rely on one company at all.
And this chart right here really highlights the core of the whole problem: concentration risk. Amazon controls nearly a third of the entire global cloud market. When you add Microsoft and Google to the mix, just 3 companies are responsible for about 2/3 of the cloud infrastructure that our digital lives are built on. That's an incredible amount of power in just a few hands.
And that really leaves us with one final and kind of scary question. This whole disaster wasn't caused by some brilliant hacker or a natural disaster. It was a simple software bug. It really makes you wonder, in a world that is so completely dependent on a handful of giant platforms, is the foundation of our entire digital society far more fragile than any of us would like to believe?